So maybe, yeah, it's probably the Samsung microphone.
Okay. Now it should go.
Hey, do you hear it? Okay, yay! God bless my students and other students, but mostly mine. All right. Where were we last time? Where'd we finish? What's up, Josh? I'm kind of sad about the arrangement of this room. Like the 10 minutes where I'm like setting up would be a really good time to rearrange the room. So I failed as your instructor because I allowed you all to keep the room like this. Would you like to rearrange the room now? You should do that. Next time, do it like when I'm done setting up. This takes a lot of work, right? It's cost me a few $1,000s to be able to do this out of my own pocket. So even though it looks like I'm not working, I'm actually working really hard. You too. Yeah, please, this would be a great time to do this. Next time, when I'm ready, I want the whole room to be ready. So on Wednesday, when I'm ready to start talking, I want you all to have already rearranged the room. You're awesome. Yeah. Just in general, you're awesome. I know you are. I know you are. I'm so happy to be working with you. You taught me something last time that I've never seen before.
Sorry.
You taught me something that I've never seen before. Oh, what's that? To get the .edu.
Yeah, well,
I'm really proud of that.
I took 10 minutes to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm going to announce that in my other class. Yep. Yeah. All right. All right, are we ready? So last time I think we got an introduction to the MATLAB environment. We did some basic commands, CLC, clear. We saw operations, order precedence, stuff like that. Are there any questions or concerns? And a great way to do that would be on YouTube. However, not all people have access to that yet. If you are not able to post comments on YouTube, I'd love to be able to figure that out as soon as possible. If you have questions, please go ahead and write them in the comments from last time or anything that came up, and I'll try to address those as we go on. So this is all new. You can also raise your hand. I'm happy to have that happen. Any form is good. Today's major focus, so I'm not really able to see, is going to be to get further into the MATLAB computing environment. And we're going to talk about functions, and I believe, if we're lucky, we're going to get to script files, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, and so I think you all can see this. So we're going to do functions today. Well, yeah, I'm still working on this. And then we're also going to do script files. This is lecture content. And then more commands as well. So this is going to be Tuesday, 1/13/2020. Okay. So we've talked about the idea. What was this thing in the middle called? Okay. Which window is activated now? How did you know that the workspace window was activated? Yep. How many variables do I have saved in memory at the current time? 0. How would you know that? Yep. All right. If I were to execute this command, what variable is the output saved in? answer, yep. And then if I wanted to, let's say that I wanted to edit the answer variable, but I didn't want to do that in the command window. What would I do to edit the ANS variable? Yeah, go over to here, double click, and it will open, it almost looks like an Excel spreadsheet, variables dash answer, and then I could actually input a bunch of different values to change it from a matrix to from a vector to a matrix. What if I just put a 12 right there? What would happen if I only put a 12 in column 2, row 3?
And all the other things in column 2 would be an and.
Should we try?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I don't specify a value, everything else goes to 0. So if I go over to here and I put a 1, what happens to everything else? And in fact, we can check that, ANS, and that displays that appropriate issue. Okay, so that's how we do this. Where am I in the path on my actual computer? So when MATLAB is speaking to my operating system right now, where does the operating system expect to find all files that I will call? In other words, what is my current folder? Yeah, say the path name. Start at user. So this is the mother drive. Then I go to users, and then indeed I am a student of life. Documents, MATLAB, examples, MATLAB, clear all outputs. How would I have found that information in the command window? What command would I type to print working directory? Yeah, pwd, print working directory. And this will allow me to see where I currently am. Let's go ahead, shall we, and change the directory by going one, I forget, in directory hierarchies, I think I go up to go closer to root and down to go farther from root, right? Is that right? You know about memory hierarchies? Okay. What is the root? C, right? Right now I'm in clear all outputs example. Let's go backwards. So now I'm in a PWD. When I push CD, CD stands for change directory. CD ... means go to the directory, the folder. Human beings call directory folders, right? Go to the folder before the one I'm in. So now I'd like to go to examples. How would I get, what command would I have to type to get into the directory examples? CD ... So now let's go ahead and PWD. Do you notice that I am navigating backwards in my directory hierarchy? Let's go ahead and list everything in the current directory. And I kind of forget the ls command. I don't remember how to use it. What could I do to figure out more how to use the ls command? Help. I need somebody. Sorry, I will never stop singing to you. Don't call your lawyer. Just smile. Here's a question for you. What if I wanted to list, what options do I have on ls? Where would you find the options? Oh, interesting. dir. So what does the ls command do? Yeah, go ahead, Michelle. Yep, ls command lists the contents of a particular folder. Let's go ahead and look back at this. So let's type ls. What do you think? It's getting kind of messy, don't you think? Okay, so let's ls. currently, what is MATLAB telling me about the directory that I am in? What are all the objects within that directory? Yeah. I have one folder called MATLAB, and MATLAB is also saying that I have the ability to go backwards. The dot dot means go back one. Can you guess what the dot is? To go nowhere. Did you see that I went nowhere? Yeah. Fast? Reminding of Offspring. I'm going nowhere fast. Okay, let's go back again. Nope, that's not it. I'd like to go back again. Yeah. Now, and I'd like to go back again. Do you see on the bottom, on the left-hand side, I have this thing called current folder. It gives me a bunch of really nice stuff there. I think I wanted to go into desktop. Isn't that where I saved my engineering stuff? So let's go to change directory, and we're going to go to desktop. You all will see that I am not a lazy man, but I am an efficient man. So if I type in DES, and then I push the tab button, did you see how it automatically corrected that? So DES, and I push tab. Now watch this. If I push tab again, it will give me a list of all possible folders within that directory. So I think I was in this one. Push tab again. In class meeting resources. Push tab again. Nope, this is not class 2. What is it? Class 3. So now let's go ahead and check. Is my working directory what I want it to be? Yep. So now I'm going to go ahead and save. Let's forget how to do this. Say it again.
Save workspace?
Yeah, where did you see that?
Yeah. Right to
I mean, I don't really even care about saving the workspace. All I care about is being able to do this, right? Let's go ahead and new folder this sucker. And I hope you're following along. One of the things you're going to see about me is I impose the following rule in almost all aspects of my life. If I want to find a resource that is important to me, it should take me no longer than 1 minute as long as I'm in the right space. I impose that same condition on each one of you. Each of you should have organization systems so that if you want to find anything that you've ever produced or want to access, it should take you less than 1 minute as long as you're in the right space. If your organization systems are not there yet, you can copy some of mine if you'd like. Okay, so now let's go ahead and print working directory. I'm in the right place. Let's go ahead and clear. Okay, so now everything that I save in today's lessons will be in the proper place. Part of your work this quarter will be to set up all of your working directories so that each class you have a corresponding folder in which you can save this information. Okay, so let's go next. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk, questions? I didn't even look at some of you might have questions for me. Fun fact, MATLAB treats functions like a class in Java. So if you already know how to do object-oriented programming, then you already know how to do functions. That's awesome. I fully expect that every one of you will teach me new facts about MATLAB. I don't know really how Java treats functions, so you just taught me something that I've never really thought about before. Thank you, Taylor. Cash, credit, or check? Okay. Oh, you missed the difference between CD. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Bintang. CD ... goes backwards one. Did you see that, Bintang? Yeah. So let's go ahead and CD. I'm going to tab in-class meeting resources. I'm going to tab again. Today is class 3. So if I go CD ... notice in the current path query right there, I have not changed my direction. But if I do CD ... Bintang, could you guess what's going to happen? I'm going to go back 1. Did you see it? Yeah. So now I was back 1. Let's go ahead and do CD change. I'm in class 3. Now I go back to class 3. So this is a way that I can navigate my file hierarchy, directory hierarchy, without using a mouse. Okay. Yeah, there are many other ways to do this. I can use a drop-down window of previous ones. I can also browse the folder. So pretend I wanted to move. Check this out. let's say that I wanted to go back to Dropbox. Let's say I wanted to go to Dropbox. If I click on that and I say select folder, check what happened to my current folder, right? Yep. And then of course I could always go back to where I was before by just clicking on where I was before, print working directory. Did I address that question?
Yeah.
Beautiful question. God, this is so much cooler than what I mean, it's cool, right? You could, because sometimes you don't want to raise your hand, right? Because you don't want to interrupt. Okay, so let's go ahead and CLC. Let's get to functions. So one of the really cool features of MATLAB is it features a large collection of built-in quote-unquote functions. The word function is similar and completely different from the use of the word function in mathematics. This is the idea of a computer programming function. So one of the things we'll talk about is figuring out what the difference between the math function is and the corresponding MATLAB functions. I like to say that the functions that we're going to study today, at least, are going to be quote-unquote native. You're going to find them within MATLAB without doing extra work. So native means that they come standard with the MATLAB programming language. So we'll talk about two types of functions. Can you see, if I write up here, can you see this in the YouTube site? Okay, so how far over am I? I can't really see.
Jeff, you want to switch the scene?
We're good.
Switch the scene to the one that's just your camera scene.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's see if I can do that. So I go over here, and I just do camera, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And then what? Am I now switched?
Yeah, we'll switch in a second.
Let me know if you see it.
Good.
Yeah? And then I guess I can do this. Whoa, I'm not as old as I look. Actually, I look a lot older than I am. It's called sleep deprivation. Nobody's laughing. Cool, real cool. All right. This over here. Yeah? Okay, so in MATLAB functions, we're going to talk about two types. So two types of MATLAB functions. Yeah. One of them is going to be quote-unquote native. Another way to say this is built-in. So built-in functions. Could you guess what the second type is going to be called?
DIY.
Yeah, okay, I never think about it that way, but yeah, I'm down to call it that. Anybody know what DIY means? Do it yourself? Yeah, that's a kind of a fun thing. Generally, my whole life, I like to DIY if I can. So this is called, in English, we say do it yourself. And in the parlance of a lot of the programming language that I've heard is also, anybody have a nerdy way to say that? User-defined functions. Can you guess what a user-defined function is? User, yeah, which is not, I don't actually think about it that way because the funny thing is, if we write good code, we are not always the end user, right? I would like to call this like programmer-defined functions.
Programmers a lot.
Yeah. So, okay, we're going to be lazy about that. So one of the things we're going to talk about is called function syntax. What was syntax again? Can someone give me a really kind of intuitive definition of what syntax means? Oh, that's a good way to think about it. So the grammar of comp sci, that's cool. That's very beautiful. Can I steal that for my future?
Yes.
Can you go a little bit more detailed there? Oh God. Cool. That is all stuff that you just taught me. Punctuation. Structure of, instead of words, I would be a little bit careful about words. Can you guess what we're going to say instead?
Symbols.
Symbols, commands. commands, code. So it's the grammar of computer science, it's punctuation, structure of symbols, commands, and code. Anything else to add?
Yeah, there's a consistent and set orders in which symbols are used.
Awesome. Awesome. So in syntax, what Misha was saying is that it has a consistent, so this is syntax continued, and we'll talk more about this as the quarter goes on, a consistent and set order. Awesome. Anything else to add? Okay. So when we think about the syntax for functions, so we'll talk about this, the syntax for MATLAB functions. I'm going to see if I can type in, I always forget the name of this silly, let's see, I kind of forget at the moment. If I type in A, which version of A comes out? Yeah, it's that ugly looking one, right? It's like this. Anybody remember the name of this text? So let me just go ahead and type in name and see if that looks like it. Yeah, it's decent. So when I write like this, I think this is called Courier, is that right? Courier font represents, can you guess what I'm going to represent with Courier font? Code, so that you can distinguish it from notes that I'm trying to make for you. When I handwrite code, I will try to write it in this font, right? So anytime I have a function, we have the following syntax. So this is what we're going to call the predefined, or I love the DIY idea, name of the function. I'm not sure off the top of my head if that's the same thing as the function handle. I'll have to get, when we get there, I'll do this. I'm still learning how to teach this class because I use MATLAB, but I don't always use the proper names for young students. So this thing is the left parentheses, and then this thing right here, could you guess what we call that? Right parentheses. What was a GIF that I was trying to give you? Every single time I write an opening grouping symbol, the next keystroke is always the closing one, and then I go back in. And that's the same thing in functions. Anybody know what we call the space inside? This space right here? Yeah, some people call that function function input. Any other words you've seen describe that? Yeah, also argument. Is that true? Parameters works?
Yeah.
Parameters are like the fields themselves, and arguments are what you pass.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll put stuff in, you'll put 3 numbers and it's like, they're expected 2 parameters or whatever.
Yeah, when we get closer to this, you're going to teach me a little bit about that language because it's not something that I'm super familiar with. So when we get further into specific functions, we'll talk about the difference between an input, argument, and a parameter. But the whole idea is that for any function that we use in MATLAB, the predefined name will be the first thing we type in. There will be lists of rules for names that we use. Immediately followed, no space, is a left parentheses, right parentheses. In between is going to be what we pass, or the arguments, so to speak. So let's see if you could find the square root function. Any guesses on how you might take the square root of, I don't know, 64? SQRT, 64. What should MATLAB produce? A 1-by-1 array. And maybe we want to call this the square root of 8. Can I make a suggestion for you? When you store variables, one thing that you might consider, if you have what we call a DIY, or a user-defined function, you might start the first letter with a capital. Could you guess why I would start with a capital? What do you notice about the native MATLAB functions? They're all lowercase. So if I write a function called sine of pi, watch this. Can you guess what MATLAB's going to do? It got mad at me. Why did it get mad at me? It's not a native function. And so as a coder, when I create functions whose first letter is a capital, what does that immediately tell me? Oh, sorry. We should get you a card so that anytime I make a mistake like that, you can always just like put up like a little. Yeah, so we'll talk more about that in a bit. One of the really cool things about MATLAB is I can actually input an expression to a function. Let me see if you get what I'm talking about here. So let's go ahead and say x equals, I don't know, 10. And then we'll go ahead and say the square root of 4 times 9 plus x. What do I mean that I can input an expression into a function? Yeah, so what MATLAB does is it evaluates the output of this first, right? So it was as if I just said, like, set a variable a equal to this output, and then take the square root of a. Okay, quick test. Quick test for you. I am having issues with my need for control at this moment, and I think the output is too loose. How would I change the format of the output to be more compact? Let's take a look. Is it more compact? Not quite. But you're correct that format short does do something.
Format short.
How would I make it more compact? Art, take it. Yeah, I actually gave you the answer in the statement. I was doing that on purpose, but. Okay, so let's try again. Do you see that it's more compact now? Look at the output up top. Look at the output up here. Super loose. Super compact. All the spaces have gone away. How would I make it loose again? How would I make the format loose again? Oh my God. This teacher is just so kind. And he speaks in the third person. Okay. What would I do if I wanted to display a longer output? So if I wanted to format it in a long form. And what does format long do? How would you get a really concise answer to what format long does?
Give 16s figures.
How'd you know that? Oh, cool. That's one way to do it. What's another way to do it?
I'm sure if you
So let's go ahead and do the reference page. I'd like to know, is James correct? James made a conjecture that format long prints 16 digits of accuracy. I'd like to know, is that true? And I'm not going to tell you. I refuse to tell you.
Somewhere with a soft hexadecimal, they think 16 is right.
Yep. Oh, hi. My ugly mug. So the following two questions I have right now. How many digits are displayed when I am in the format short paradigm? How many digits are displayed when I am in the format long paradigm? Do you have it, Kenny?
computer from installed.
Oh no. Do you have it? I forget your name. Kyle. Do you have it, Kyle? Where did you find that? You counted. Okay, so you. Yep, you got it, Josh?
Yeah, it says long, it's 15 digits after the decimal point for double values and 7 digits after the decimal point for single values.
Okay, so was James correct?
No.
Yeah.
Not as correct as he's about to be, right? So the claim on that one, let's go ahead and confirm this for a moment. So if I type like 5 to the, let's do 5 point, I got it, 5 plus pi. Oh God, I broke my own cardinal rule. 5 plus pi to the 34. So 16 total. But the 16 didn't necessarily have to do with how many would start, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have 100 point,
Yeah, we'll talk about what we call floating point operations. But if I now shorted this sucker, so I think this is a single. Can you guess what happens when I put single around that? I typecast it as a single rather than a double variable, right? So where did you find that information again, Josh?
I click in the reference in the help,
And then you got down to,
and went down a ways, and there's a table.
awesome. There's a table eventually? Okay. How far is it? There it is. So long fixed decimal format with 15 digits after the decimal point for double values, 7 digits after the decimal point for single values. What did we just learn about questions and documentation? Great way to learn MATLAB is to make some guesses. Good way to confirm your guesses is to do what? Where? Where's the primary source that I want you to go to? Documentation. I'm going to say this 100 times because anybody see like, oh, it's so much easier if you just told us? You feel that? The sooner I start to get you out of that mode, the better. Okay, so there we go. There's that. Now I would like you to please find for me a list of all elementary math functions. So I want to know, what are the elementary math functions in MATLAB? I see Natalie is in. I think Shayon is in. I think Art is in. Misha. Wesley, I think, is in. Wesley, you in? Yeah. Jonathan's not in yet, but Jonathan, let me see if I got her name. Jin Wen is here. Lin, that's right. Lin, sitting to your left is a man named Jonathan. Jonathan, that's Lin. Can he look over your shoulder because he hasn't yet installed MATLAB? By Wednesday, he'll probably have that done. Awesome. And the same thing for Jessica. Cool. Do you have the elementary math functions? Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. Yep.
When it's first listening to the desktop, it doesn't see the documentation. If we're going to use the documentation.
Oh, okay.
So it might just be better to just use the desktop.
Okay, cool.
We're just going to use one monitor.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Is that better? Yeah, better, right?
Yeah, this probably. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Make sure, check it. Okay. So one thing that you can try to do is to like help the word function. I might actually go to documentation MATLAB, and in this case, I'm looking for elementary functions. Could you guess where I might look for that? Elementary math functions in particular. So let's go ahead and do this for a second. So I'm going to close this. I go up and I hit the little question mark. So one thing to do when you're trying to search the documentation is to actually like help a particular command. The other thing to do is to get to know this stuff. I don't know if I want to do language fundamentals. What do you think? Or mathematics? Okay, so let's do that again. Let's do that again together. I'm going to go to the little help question mark button. I click that. I also see that if I hit F1, I get to the same thing. Once I'm here, there's literally an entire textbook ready to be done for us in the documentation. So I said explore MATLAB, and then I go to mathematics, and I hit elementary math. And now the question is, well, what type of functions would I like to do? Any favorite math that you have? Any favorite?
You know, I really love linear algebra.
Oh my goodness. Are you going for that A? Because I think you just got it. Let's see. Do you see anything in linear algebra?
Linear algebra is not elementary.
I see complex numbers. I see discrete math.
Linear equations,
Matrix decomposition.
matrix decomposition?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, it's down. Yeah.
Now I can read more about that, right? Okay, here's a challenge for you. I'd like you to find, so here's a challenge. Using functions, I want you to find the integer part and the non-integer part, the fractional part of the number 11 over 5. So I want you to be able to break that into two pieces. I want you to store the first piece as int underscore test. So the output should be 2. And then I want you to do frac underscore test. And the output should be 0.2. But I want you to be able to do that using functions, elementary math functions in particular. What's up, Konjac? So you're breaking this number into two pieces. The first piece is the integer part. You might also call that a round down. Hint, hint. You might also call that a floor function. I saw 3 people smile. Those 3 people just got A's as well. Wow.
Okay.
Say it again.
Round towards negative.
Or. Okay, I see Lynn, I see Jean, I see Misha, Marcus, Shayon, Wesley. Adam, did I see? Yeah, what's up, Adam? Tree is definitely here. Jonathan is back in action. It's so great to meet you, Jonathan. Welcome to the party. Josh, Nick, Tony. Did I see Tony? What up, Tony? Ethan, did I see Ethan today? Yeah, you're right in front of me, man. Kenny is here. Charlotte, James, Taylor is definitely here. Michelle, Natalie, Art, and Vincent, I think, is gone. And then you said Kyle, right, Kyle? And the first time I met you was on Wednesday for sure, right? But I did not meet you on Monday. Is that correct? Great to see you back, my friend. Okay, do you got it? Okay, give me some code to do that. And maybe I'll give you first dibs since you said it out loud.
Or it rounds towards negative infinity.
Okay, so I'm going to do int test gets. You remember we called it the assignment operator? I like to read the assignment operator, aka the equal sign, as gets. So I'm creating. So let me do this first of all. Let me clear everything, and then I'm also going to clear all variables in the workspace. Did you see my workspace is now completely empty? Kind of nice, right? So int test, my teacher told me I have to use this, right? Gets what? Okay. Okay. Now what? I want frac test. Can someone else give me that? Because I don't want to have to. Say it again.
0.2.
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to use 0.2. I have to use functions to get there.
Subtract from 11 over 5.
Uh-oh. Broke my own rule. Anybody see how to do that with a can you get the function immediately? Can you get the fractional part of that? Yeah. Say it again.
Modules?
Yeah, I'll just give you the remainder.
Okay.
So do like frac test is equal to mod, whatever the answer is. 1.
Mod.
What was the 11 over 5?
Uh-oh.
1.
Whoa, that is so awesome. Okay, so shall we do both at the same line? So now we go, I guess I could actually do both together. So check this out. Let me go ahead and highlight, delete. Hey, check that out. If I push Control All, it highlights everything beforehand, right? But what happens when I hit delete? What did you notice? Did it delete everything? Why not? The only thing we can edit comes after the... You remember what those two little arrows are called? Starts with the word command, ends with the word prompt. Oh, nice. Good memory. So say that again. What's the only editable feature of the command window? Pretend for a moment that I wanted to grab the two previous commands and I don't want to type them. Oh, nicely done. Did you see what he just said? If I type up, do you see that? So this little window down her, what's that little window called? Command history. It stores, I think, 25,000 commands. When I scroll up, it does so in most recent command fashion. So it goes from the least on the way, and then now I'm going to set that thing, and then the other thing that I can do is come over here and set it. What do you expect? Did you see how I did that? I just scrolled up, and then when I was ready, I also just did both together, so I could do this as well. So let me go ahead and delete that. Come over here in the command history. I'm going to type on that. If I hit Control, that allows me to highlight specific lines. So now I come over and I click and drag. What output do you expect from that line of code?
Test. Frac test.
Okay, Michelle is saying that it will give me the int test output and the fact test output. Ready?
Well, it won't give you any output. It'll just update the variable.
Ah, she says it won't give me any output. It will just update the variables. How do you know it won't give me any output?
Because of the semicolon.
The semicolon. Do you remember the verb that we used there? Suppress. It suppresses the output. What about this line of code? What about this line of code? Okay, let's clear.
What kind of way to suppress it all at once?
Well, there's two different lines of code there. So,
I think it was when you were populating a 2x1 array.
yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess we could do this, right? Shut up, MATLAB. All right, so you all found a way to do that. You can now list document search bar. I do want to say this out loud right now. These handouts that I just gave you today, these are also available online. So let me show you how to do this. These are hard copies of handouts that I printed for you. One of my philosophies as a teacher is I should pay for everything that I can. If I was a billionaire, I would pay all of your tuition in full. And I also would pay for a stipend for housing, so all you had to do was study. I wouldn't be a billionaire for very long, but that doesn't bother me. If I cared about money, I would not have become a teacher. I wanted to show you, just as a reminder, let me go ahead and put this over her. Our class is Engineering 11. Today's lesson is right here. So every bit of notes that I used to generate today's lesson is available free to you. This is about 30 hours of work, this 31 pages handwritten. The 100 pages of handwritten notes that I made for lesson 1 took me about 30 hours. And I know you think that looks easy, but it wasn't. And then the suggested problems for today, the ones that I printed out, are available here. I'm going to say this right now. In class, I'm not going to show you all of these things. What I'm going to do is to show you how to read the documentation. Can you guess what my expectation is between now and Wednesday's class? You do every bit of problems, and if you have questions about how to use a particular piece of syntax, what do I expect? Where? First place to get answers to questions that I'm going to suggest? Documentation. So when I see you next, I expect every single one of you will have worked through every problem in Lesson 1, Part 2. That's this one. If you can't figure out the answers to these by yourself, can you guess what I expect you to be able to bring to class with me next time? Specific questions about the exact syntax problem that you're having. I'm going to impose a rule for you. We're going to impose what we call the 2-minute rule, and I better write this down. Art knows this. I think, Art, you remember this rule because we worked pretty heavily on. Do you remember this rule at all? The 2-minute rule for getting questions asked and answered in math. Okay, so let's go ahead and describe out loud. This is a really good one for self-study. So I'm going to write this down because sometimes students think if I said it and didn't write it, I'm not serious about it. And then we'll take a break for today. So, expectation. Expectation for Engineering 11. Can someone recapitulate this? Maybe Jessica, can you help? What was the expectation?
That we're going to do all of lesson 1, part 2 suggested problems.
Yeah. And maybe since this is an expectation on each of us, do my very best to finish every single problem from suggested problem list. Suggested problem list. I will do my very best as your teacher to bring a hard copy with me, and I'll also do my very best to have those posted prior to class. The longer the quarter goes on, the less likely it is I'm going to achieve those goals, but I will hold myself to that standard. 2. As you do this, Jeff expects one of 2 outcomes for each problem. Can you guess what the 2 outcomes are going to be?
Do it or you don't do it, you have a class with question.
Okay. Full solution to each problem, each subproblem, and saved in live script format. I might be enlisting some of my world-class students to help me write solutions on this. I don't know. We'll see. Or, if you cannot do part A specific question to be answered next class. Okay? And then this is where I'm going to do what we call the 2-minute rule. This is a 2-minute rule. I'm going to actually up the ante because some of you are not used to reading yet. Some of you still think that I'm going to teach you MATLAB. I'm going to teach you how to think about MATLAB. So, part 3. We're going to have what we call a 5-minute rule for solutions to problems. Okay. And I'm going to articulate this here. Each time I get stuck. Can you guess what it means to get stuck on a problem? Yeah, you're trying to write the code for yourself. So ideally, you will try to answer all of these problems without looking at any documentation. Right? So the ideal scenario would be you look at these problems, you open MATLAB, and you literally just write code off the top of your head, right? If, however, you get stuck, so you're like looking at something and you're like, I don't know. Can you guess the first place I want you to go? Go first to, so go to, so we're going to call that a primary source. What's the primary source? MATLAB Documentation. Can you guess what the secondary source is going to be? Okay. Can we call patient 0? 0 source. All right, so I agree with you. This is by far the best way to get stuff done. Yes. The most fun way to learn is with other serious students, right? But I am going to assume that you all don't live in the same house. Is that a true statement? Some of you might live in the same house, but I'm assuming that all of you don't live in the same residence. Okay, so that's a true assumption. So it may be the case that you're working on problems and you're not around your classmates. So I agree completely. Yeah, and it also may be the case that just because you're around your classmates doesn't mean that they know the answer to your problem either, right? So assuming that either you're not around somebody or the person that you're around doesn't know the answer, after the 0 source, we go to the primary source. What's the primary source always in this class? MATLAB Documentation. Some of my students ask, do we need a textbook? I do have a suggested textbook. I think it is, did anybody check that it's written in the syllabus? Okay, I need to know, is the textbook written in the syllabus?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I found that out somehow.
Okay, please let me know what line it's on, what page it's on, when you're ready. I have a lot to say about that textbook. However, if you all read every page of MATLAB documentation, you could write a damn textbook in MATLAB. The documentation has more than almost every textbook that I've ever seen written on MATLAB.
Page 3.
Page 3, so it is in there. Josh takes credit, cash, and check. He's very detail-oriented. You will know him. I know him. Second is we're going to do the MathWhatWorks online community. And there is a budding third source is going to be MATLAB Stack Exchange. And then fourth source is Google source searches not numbers 0 through 3. So anything outside of that. I do have a bunch of resources on, I guess I should actually, or Jeff's website. I do have a lot of stuff that I offer on my website. We'll talk about that. Okay, so the 5-minute rule. If I get stuck, what's my expectation of you all? The moment you get stuck, go to classmates if you have them. If you don't have them, primary resource. Yep, documentation. And then this is the 5-minute rule. For each problem, set a timer. And I'm quite serious about this. You know how to access your timer on your smartphone? 5 minutes. Set a timer for exactly 5 minutes. I'm not joking. I'm 100% serious. I expect you, at the moment you get stuck, get your cell phone out before you start, or any timing device. Get your alarm on, set it for 5 minutes. Here's the rules. In that 5 minutes, you can do anything to try to find the answer. You can call your cousin whose father wrote MATLAB. Right? You can hire a private tutor and pay that person to find the answer. You can go on documentation. You can look through any notes. I don't care. You can do anything you want in that 5 minutes. If you find the answer, write a note to yourself with that answer explained. And to be honest with you, I would use a live script. And we'll talk about that later today. We're going to get to that. Okay, rookie mathematician. You know what a rookie mathematician or computer scientist does when they're running out of room? Squeeze it on the bottom, blah, blah, blah. You know what a pro does? Get a new piece of paper. Or just push return. Could you guess what I'm going to say if you don't find an answer to your question in 5 minutes? So you're working on 5 minutes, you're working, and then that bell goes off. The timer literally goes ding, 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 ding. Nope. Nope. If that bell goes off, if you've spent 5 minutes trying to find the answer to the question, you're done on your time. Move on. I'll talk about that in a second. So it's not spend more time on it. Nope. Can you guess what I'm going to ask you to do if that 5-minute bell goes off? I might ask Art because I know he's got this on lock. But what before you move on? Yeah. 1B. If the bell tolls and you still don't have an answer, write a very specific question in your live script. That's my about your problem. To prep for next time. And we'll talk more about what that looks like. Then move on. And then we'll take a break right after this. I am fully expecting that you do this. I'm giving you some gifts right now. Anybody ever got stuck in a class, spent 45 minutes trying to get an answer? After that 45 minutes, you don't have an answer. You're no further where you want to be. You are now behind in the lesson that you're working on because in that 45 minutes you were supposed to finish the whole lesson, right? And then you have a choice of going further behind in that class or finishing other classes, right? Anybody ever have that happen? Yeah, me too. This circumvents that problem. This puts a hard deadline. Usually, to be honest with you, I call it the 1-minute rule. I get 1 minute to search the answer, but I can already tell that some of you do not have what I would call high resilience. Do you know why I know that? Some of you are starting to like have your eyes roll back or check your phone when I tell you to read documentation. I've seen it happen already probably 50 times today. I've told you to read documentation, and you treated me when I saw your faces like, oh, what a waste of my fucking time. Okay, that's cool. We just met each other, right? As I work with you more, I'm going to build that muscle up. By the end of this class, I expect every one of you to be professional documentation searchers. So for now, I impose the 5-minute rule. As you get better at this and you build your resiliency, I might drop it down to 3 minutes, right? Eventually, you won't need a time limit. Eventually, you're going to get an answer because you're so excited about it, but we'll work up to that. So what's the 5-minute rule? So let's talk through this for a minute. We're working on problems in this class. The expectation is that every single one of these problems is done before I see you next, right? All right, so you're working on problems and you get stuck. The moment you get stuck, we have something called the 5-minute rule. What's the 5-minute rule? Literally get a timer, and you get to check sources, and I'm going to order those sources for you. What's the order of the sources? First, best source that you can ever get? Classmate. Assuming that you're not around a classmate, or your classmate is as confused as you are, what's the next one? MATLAB documentation. Next one? MATLAB's online community, or my website. Why am I putting, I'm the teacher of the class. You would expect me, if I wanted to get rich and famous, or if I was a good teacher, right? Wouldn't you expect my resources to go above MATLAB? Why am I putting MATLAB above my resources?
Because your resources are a subset.
Forget about Jeff-focused thinking. I want student-focused thinking. What message does that tell you about your own learning in MATLAB? Yeah.
If your resources were above, it means that your learning in MATLAB only matters in this class.
And that Jeff will always answer my questions, right? Yeah, the message that would send is, oh, Jeff is the best source of my question. What message does that send? What message? And yes, be bored with me, get mad at me. I'm not going to stop doing this. It's going to be the best gift that I give you all quarter. For those of you that are serious about it. For those of you that want to get an easy A, you're going to be pissed at me. You're like, just shut up, Jeff. What message does this send to you, Jonathan?
You can't beat the information they provide for you, so everything you need should be on the document.
And I want you to learn to do that. That's a cultivated skill. Underrepresented, under-advertised. But in my class, I'm going to say it every time until you're blue in the face. And the only two people are allowed to say shut up to me. Art and Natalie. Those are the only 2 people that are allowed to say shut up to me. You can say shut up to me too. Shayon maybe. We're still getting there. Yeah. Okay, so once we have that, we go through this list. What's the next part of the 5-minute rule? And then we'll take a break. Describe the 5-minute rule to me in person. Kyle. Really? Did I say just leave it? Is that right? Write what? What am I writing? So you said 5 minutes. At the end of 5 minutes, if you have the answer, document your answer. Where did you find the answer? What commands did you use? What specific page? I would even print that out, right? So you have a full answer ready to go and you know where you found it. If, however, you can't find the answer in 5 minutes, Kyle, pretty good, working your way up to an A. What do I do instead? Adam? If I can't find the answer after 5 minutes, what do I do? Full questions, specific, we're going to say in a live script, we'll talk about that in just a bit, ready to be brought to class with you. The first time you see somebody that's in this class, you can show them that script, they can answer the question, then you document it, or you can post it on my YouTube channel, or you can ask me in person, right? And then you move on. Cool? All right, break. It is now, what time is it? 11:12, can we start again at 11:22? Cool. See you again at 11:22. We'll put on some music in the meantime. And then, Misha, could I ask for your help, or do you need a break? I'm really thinking that it's probably a smart idea to stop the live stream here and then restart it
Yeah,
immediately.
you could just, stop and stream it. It'll go up on YouTube as 2 different streams.
Awesome. So I
Yeah, when
push.
you, well, okay, so yeah, from my experience, like you have to change you have to manually change the title of the live stream, because like when you go live, it uses the title that you have set right now
Yeah.
on your live stream. So like,
Yeah, so I'll manually change
it will
that.
go up again, but it'll still have the same title. Oh, like you should check.
That's awesome. You're telling. I'll get there.
I think we should honestly like set. I don't know.
Set it over here, right?
Yeah, over here. So then like you don't have to move the camera.
Yeah,
or
it's just that
anything.
you know what they do, right?
Yeah.
They lock the darn thing so that it's hard to get the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much room do you have? I have no room. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll figure it out though.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Thank you so much, Misha.
Yeah, maybe.
You're changing the history of my class.
Yeah, it would be. If you had a laptop that you could set it up on for yourself, and then just have it set up like wherever you go. So then like, just sort of, well, I don't know. Well, the other thing I was thinking about earlier with like the student, like asking your classmates, like you could set up a forum on your website, possibly, but the problem with that is that you need moderators, just in case, right? To like moderate the kind of content that's being posted on the forum.
Yeah.
so-
We'll get there. We'll get
Yeah,
there.
that's like, it's just, that's like, I thought about it as, oh, what a great idea, and I'm like, oh. it's
So
the same thing with
that's
the-
really interesting. So I stopped streaming, right?
Yeah. You stopped